Hello and welcome to another episode of Grange TV, guys. This is not a full episode. This is just going to be our thoughts on the upcoming fights or potential matchups that we like. This is going to be one fight in particular. We're going to talk about Jones versus Adesanya. Guys, if you like what we say or you don't like what we say, just add your comments in the section below. Please like and subscribe. Tell us what you think. If you're a new subscriber, you've never heard us before, like and subscribe, please, even if you don't like it. Eli, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I guess today we're talking about the Jon Jones-Israel Adesanya fight. Very interesting, mega fight, obviously. If it can happen. Do you know what I mean? If Israel can get through Jan, which is, do you know what I mean? Before we spoke about it before. I underrated Jan in the last fight. He proved me wrong. He could do it again, but I feel like it's a bad matchup for Jan. I think it's a good matchup for Israel. And then that maps out the mega fight with Jon Jones, which talks are Raider Stadium in LA, 70,000 would be the biggest fight in UFC history. So, yeah, very interesting fight. Jon Jones hasn't really shown us his best performances in his last couple of fights, but Jon Jones is 33 years of age, so in my opinion still young. Do you know what I mean? He's still young, but we've spoken about it before, the amount of time that he spent in the spotlight and as a champion and some of the battles that he's had, 15 title defenses. Do you know what I mean? That weighs a little bit on you. So, you know, he may be 33 years of age, but his fighting years are much larger than people who are probably only 25 years of age in the fight game. So it'll be very interesting. It is a mega fight to make. Unfortunate for some of the other people who are waiting in the shadows, your Glover Teixeiras, your Robert Whitakers. But for the UFC and for the company, if it was my company, this is the map I would be taking as well. This is the way that I would want to be going, because I want to make the most amount of money. It's the entertainment business, prize fighting. That's what it's about, money. So, yeah, I think that's...
Is that the most exciting fight that you can think of in the UFC? Would that be the biggest fight for you?
I think it's more exciting than Israel and Jan, but I think Israel needs to he wants to stamp that champ and have Jon Jones's belt on his shoulder to be able to have that extra... What would you say that?
Would you want to see Israel and Jones fight right now, irrespective of Israel getting the win over Jan?
Yeah, I would like to see that. But again, for the promotion, if Israel can hang that light heavyweight belt over one shoulder, the middleweight belt over the other shoulder, that light heavyweight belt that Jones has owned for so long, do you know what I mean? And then start to, man, the way you can promote that, I think is really interesting. Do you know what I mean? It would be very entertaining. It would start to bring on some more fans and that. I think, yeah, I think.
How do you see the fight actually happening between them? Like, how do you see Jones? How do you see the matchup occurring?
Man, I would say that Israel would be maybe a young version of Jones, but not as well rounded.
They're almost the same age.
Yeah, I know they're almost the same age, but I would say that he's not as well rounded as Jon Jones. I don't think he has the wrestling. I don't think he has the. He is crafty, very crafty, but Jon Jones, man, when he's on, a motivated Jon Jones with a good game plan, but he can adapt so well too, Jon Jones. Do you know what I mean? So it's very interesting, but I feel like what Jon Jones are we going to get? If we get a motivated Jon Jones who is on the ball, then I feel no one can beat him. If we get a Jon Jones that we've seen in previous fights, then that is the chance for Israel to take that crown.
What is it that you're saying that the Jon Jones you don't
in some of his previous fights, I just don't think we've seen the same Jon Jones. Do you know what I mean?
Do you think that's got more to do with like a Thiago Santos or Dominic Reyes or Gustafsson? They're very good challenges.
Yeah, I just don't know but maybe they haven't been that motivation for him to go out and perform his best. Do you know what I mean? But Jon Jones's best performances have been the larger of them title fights. Do you know what I mean?
With Cormier.
Yeah, Cormier and stuff like that, where he can go out. So when it's the bigger lights and the I guess the more spotlight on the opponent, that's when I feel like we get the best John Jones. So saying that, in this Israel fight, Israel is the superstar in the UFC right now. Do you know what I mean? Everyone, you can like and comment and say that McGregor is no longer the superstar in the UFC. Right now, it's Israel Adesanya. He is the superstar in the UFC, not John Jones, not anyone else. Israel Adesanya is calling the shots. And I feel that John Jones, if he can get motivated for that, come out under the lights, I feel he will be able to perform and beat Israel Adesanya.
They're saying, I think Winklejohn was saying that fight, John's going up to heavyweight, and if Israel wants that fight, it's going to be at heavyweight. Do you think it'll happen at heavyweight? Do you think it'll happen at all?
It won't happen at heavyweight. They're saying John Jones is going up to heavyweight. He doesn't have a fight booked at heavyweight. So until he has a fight booked, he hasn't went up to heevyweight.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Until I physically see him on a card booked in for a fight, he hasn't went up to heavyweight. Do you know what I mean? That's like saying, Demetrius Johnson's going up to heavyweight. Until he fights there, do you know what I mean? He hasn't went up to heavyweight. So until he has a fight booked, he's not a heavyweight fighter. He's vacated his light heavyweight title. We all know that. But he's not a heavyweight fighter until he has a fight there. So I can't see it happening at heavyweight. If it does, that only favours John Jones even more. And I think when they're behind the scenes and when it comes to the negotiations, they will want that at light heavyweight.
Do you think that just off the top of your head, gun in your head right now, obviously we're going to do a breakdown and predictions closer to the fight if it happens, but who do you see winning that fight? Who's the favourite for you, not personally?
For me, John Jones is the favourite.
Why is that?
The proven favourite, 15 title defences. Do you know what I mean? He's beat everyone he's come up against.
Is he tired? Is he tired? Do you think he still wants to fight?
That
with the same thing, because the biggest phenomenon that I see, one, I think wrestling really takes it out of your body. It really does. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I think Jones has been the first that I can think of. Please write in the comments and tell us what you think. The first superstar, like from as a kid, like that came into the UFC as a kid, as a 21-year-old. Became the champion, etc. And he was at such a young age, and he went through the spotlight. Everyone actually kind of got to see John grow up, so to speak. And you didn't, and that's why as well, a lot of the controversy that's occurred and that's surrounding him as well. Man, if you're a young guy, I'm not excusing the behavior. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying if you're a young guy and everything you did from 20, 21, 22 years old was put out on film. I know me, I wouldn't want everything that I did as a 20-year-old or a 21-year-old to be out on film. I don't think people around me would think the same of me necessarily. So I think that I don't know how much living your life in that fishbowl affects you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Like true.
Every one of those things, because Israel's had lots and lots of fights and an incredible amount of success, and he's had over 100 fights combined. Right, and he's fought some of the best kickboxers on the planet.
But he hasn't had that spotlight that John Jones has.
The spotlight wasn't there.
Yeah.
The spotlight wasn't there. So in a way, financially, okay, it doesn't benefit you, but you're able to get like that top level experience, big stadiums, big cards, fought Simon Marcus, fought Jason Wilness, fought Alex Pereira. So fought a lot of big names, fought for world titles, lost world titles.
Yeah.
This is huge experience, but he was able to do that in not anonymity, I will say, but relative to John Jones, huge.
Yeah.
Like everyone that was in the fight world knew who he was. I think I knew who he was. He had 700,000 followers before he fought in the UFC, but it wasn't the UFC and it wasn't the fishbowl of that, what John Jones had to go through. And I say this because, in my opinion, that benefits Israel. That I feel he's still young and eager in the game as far as like the whole show and everything. And he takes to the show very, very well. I actually favor Israel.
Yeah, well, I would say an Israel Adesanya now versus a John Jones 5 years ago, not a chance.
Different story.
Not a chance. What makes this interesting is John Jones in fighting years, even though he's 33, in fighting years is now starting to go on. And some of his worst performances have now been of late. Do you know what I mean? His last couple of performances. But them performances are still wins.
Yeah, look,
they're still wins against
top.
top-level guys. They're not.
I don't know that I agree with you that they were bad. I don't think they were bad performances. I just feel that
they weren't as dominant as what
no,
we used to see.
They weren't dominant.
So that's
they weren't
what
dominant.
I think.
They weren't dominant, but I don't think that those guys are slouches. Like you see someone like Thiago Santos, and you saw him against Glover, where he can put you out like that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And John, it's different. You're defending your belt. Whereas Glover, if he had lost that, he didn't have the same pressure. If John Jones went out and fought a little bit more recklessly against Thiago and got put away, he would have lost everything.
Yeah.
You know, that's got to weigh on your mind a little bit. I'm surprised that he didn't, and I'm curious, and I want to know why there wasn't more of a takedown attempt from Jones in that fight. Is there something wrong? Is there, I don't know, because it would be something that would really stand to reason to use against an Israel.
Yeah, that would have to be a tactic. But I don't know. Israel, if he wants to play that range game, man, John Jones is a master of it. If he wants to play the hand fighting game, John Jones is a master of it. If he wants to try to close that distance, get on the inside, John Jones has got sharp elbows, knees, kicks. Do you know what I mean? I think, but just depending on what John Jones we get.
I just feel Israel's a much better striker, man.
Yeah, more technically.
I do. I feel that. But you feel that it'd be close like that?
Yeah, I feel it would be.
Okay.
I feel because what John Jones does so well, and all of the best fighters do, is you fight his game. When John Jones is on, he sucks you into this game that you fight, and you end up playing this hand game and he will just chew you up. He will jab you off that. He will elbow off that. He will circle off that, and he can, mate, he's just a master of it. So that's what John Jones does really well. I'm not saying Israel doesn't do that. Israel does that as well. He sucks you into a false illusion, especially with his range and his counter-punching. But I feel John Jones is the master of that. So it will be.
One of the things on that is there's 4 ways to mitigate risk.
Yep.
And it's like transfer the risk, avoid the risk, mitigate the risk, or you smash through it. And he actually does that. Let's see, he smashes straight through that risk. Wherever the greatest strength of the opponent is, that's more or less where he takes him. Yeah,
well, that's
and then that takes away that person's confidence and that person's weapons. My only concern is that do you want to do that with an Israel Adesanya standing up? When you have the wrestling pedigree that John Jones has.
Yep.
That's what I find interesting. Guys, please leave your comments. Tell us what you think. Like and subscribe. We're going to do a prediction and a breakdown of the actual fight, were it to eventuate. We want to know your opinions, guys. We can talk about fighting all day. Thank you, guys.
Cheers.
Thank you.